Hello, everyone, and welcome to On the Hunt with Alpen Optics. I'm Lonnie Robinson, your host. With me tonight, my co-host, Rick White. He's going to be talking about a monster buck he just got. And joining us tonight is Mr. Wingbone himself, Mr. Benjamin Edwin Shirts. Be sure to stay with us. We'll be talking about our special this evening. And tonight we're going to be joking around, having fun, and talking lots of turkey. Welcome back to On the Hunt with Alpen Optics. Tonight, like I said, we're going to be talking lots of turkey. And with us is Mr. Wingbone himself, Mr. Edwin Shirts. Edwin, how you doing tonight?
I'm doing great, sir. How are you doing?
Oh, I'm doing fine. Tell us a little bit something about yourself there.
Well, I reside in Iowa. Rick lives about 2 hours from me, if it gives you an idea of where I'm located. I'm in the southeast corner of Iowa. I've lived here most of my life. When I graduated high school, I went to the military, and I went in the Army, and I went over to Germany for 4 years.
Ronald Reagan was our president, and he was tearing down the Berlin Wall. And right after the Berlin Wall came down, I got out of the military and came back to the States and went to work in construction and did some steel factory work. And in 2012, I went to my first calling contest for the NWTF, and that's where I met Rick White. And I'll tell you what, it's been a whirlwind since.
Well, awesome. And you are the owner of Wingbone Calls?
Yes, sir. In 2002, I shot my first antlered buck that was really nice. And that fall we were talking, my cousin's husband, Dave, and we hunted together, and he was talking about going turkey hunting that following spring. And I was like, man, I don't the store. And he's like, no, it's not about that. And he pulled out this call and he started running this call, and he's like, dude, check this out. So he put this turkey call in my hand and I started running it, and I was just like, wow, there's something to this. And so that was the spring of 2003. And in Iowa, you can get 2 birds in the spring and 2 birds in the fall. And I filled all my tags that very first year being a greenhorn. And we were sitting there one night eating the wild turkey, and my cousin and her husband Dave was over, and Dave's like, hey man, let's take them wing bones and make a wing bone call. So we practiced making wing bone calls with chicken wings.
Awesome.
And found out how fragile bones are when you're working with wing bones. They're very fragile, and when you're trying to piece them together, you can crack them and ruin them. So if somebody wants to have a wing bone call made, it's wise to send both wings. A lot of times when you're shotgunning, that wing gets busted, or if you're bow hunting, one wing will get busted, and you can still make a 2-piece wing bone call that sounds great. And so in 2003, we started making the wing bone calls. Then I ventured out and started practicing with a Dremel, and I hollowed out some deer antlers and made some yelpers with that. And then around 2010, another cousin on my mom's side was with the NWTF, and he got me started with the NWTF because he saw my wing bone calls, and he was like, dude, these are so cool. And we got to talking, so I made some wing bone calls for their banquet. They did really well. I mean, it was
Rick, you said Rick helped you get in this?
Yeah, and so anyway, in 2012, I created Mr. Wingbone's Calls, and I built my wood shop, and I made my very first turkey calls, and I went to my very first turkey calling contest. That's where I met Rick White.
Yeah.
And Rick
And-
was running my calls that day, and he fell in love with my calls, I guess, because he likes running them today.
Hey, Rick, you chime in there, buddy. You helped him get going. What do you think about him now?
Edwin. Edwin, what you kind of specialize in, and what you haven't told us yet, is you specialize in a custom call, in a friction type call. And just briefly talk a little bit about your friction calls.
Okay, well, my friction calls,
it starts with a block of wood. It starts with a block of wood. You turn it and show us.
It starts with a length of wood, a big old slab of wood from my sawmill guy, and I bring it home and I cut it down to blanks. And I start with a 4x4 blank, and I'll mark out the holes. I've got templates that I mark out the holes. We'll drill the holes. We chop off the corners. We attach it to the wood lathe. We turn them all right here in house, and
let's see what they look like. Let's see what the finished product looks like.
Well, here's a butternut call. This is a very rare call, and it's just a slate call. It's a single-sided call. I also do some two-sided calls. On my website, they're known as the Cryptic Hen series, and you can get several different surfaces. I got glass, crystal, aluminum, and slate. We're venturing out and trying to figure out ceramic, and ceramic is really high pitched right now, so I'm trying to get it so it deepens the yelp, because to me it's just too high of a yelp the way I make my calls. So I'm trying to get that figured out, and there's a lot of different striped options that you can do on the calls. We also do a one-sided striped call. And I'll tell you what, these calls, they are phenomenal in the turkey woods and even on the competition stages.
Yeah, and we can't really run them on Zoom because it peaks out the audio. So they can go onto your website and they can listen to them if they want to. Now, I know you've got a new one out that came out last year that is one of my favorites, the old Raspy Red. And, I would just tell people, if you're looking for a call, they're all great calls, but check this one out because I'm kind of impartial to that one. But you have glass, you have slate, you have different strikers, and the reason for that, and you can explain to people, is one call and 3 or 4 different strikers really is 3 or 4 different sounding hens. And why is that important in the woods?
Well, in the springtime, the toms are looking for the hens. Sometimes you'll get a satellite hen that'll break, or a tom that'll break away from the group because the boss toms are guarding all the hens and he can't get near them, so he wants to get with the hen, so he'll break loose. And sounding like a hen with a custom call or whatever you're using is very beneficial, because they communicate on a daily basis and they like to be together. So
what I tell people, Edwin, is I go to the woods, years ago when I started hunting back in the 70s, I went to the woods with a shotgun and 1 turkey call. Well, nowadays I go to the woods with multiple turkey calls, and people think, well, you're just, you're a walking billboard, but that's not the reason. The reason is I'll throw all these different sounds at turkeys and find out what they're responding to best. And I'm going to set all my other calls down, and that's the call I'm going to use to bring them in. And not, not just because you're on the show, but your calls are so realistic that they're kind of my go-to calls. I'm a diaphragm caller by trade, but when it comes to friction calls, you're the go-to guy really on that.
Well, now both of you two have won world championship turkey calling contest, correct?
Correct.
State contests and I've called in the world, and I've called in the Grand Nationals, and have placed in those, but I have never won the world. I wish I would.
You've won states.
I've won the state 11 times, and I think, Edwin, you're in there, aren't you?
I've won the state championship 1 time, but I've won the friction division in the Iowa State Turkey Calling Championship 3 times. So I tell everybody I'm a 4-time state champion. 3 of it is with friction only, and I've done it with my own calls. And the cool thing is, I think you told me this, Rick, because I called you in 2014 during the Iowa State Turkey Calling Championship. You were sitting in an airport in Texas, and I called you, and I believe you told me, Rick, at that time that your history.
More about how they make it.
How do you make your calls, Edwin? Or, do you, I've never seen the process of how it's done.
I start out with a block of wood like this, and then I've got some templates that I'll put on them, and it makes these holes. It'll turn it into this.
Okay.
All right? And then on my lathe, I'm going to move my phone here, if that's all right, and show you this. On my lathe here, can you see the chuck right here? Then
Sure.
I have a screw chuck that there's a block of wood and a screw that goes in here. And then I mount this caul onto this chuck, and then it turns, and then I'll shape it, and it starts from there.
Starts from there. Okay, now I take it that's a slate call you're talking about?
Well, yeah, a lot of people recognize them as a slate call. A slate depends on the surface. You've got glass, crystal, aluminum, slate. There's ceramic. Some people have even used copper and brass. I've seen that from other call makers. I haven't ventured into that area of the brass or the copper yet, but I've got people that want me to. And I think coming up in Mr. Wingbone's Call's future, I was watching a video on YouTube on how to make box calls. I think we're going to experiment with that and try to get some box calls out there for everybody, because I think people like box calls.
Okay, well, one of you, what about diaphragm calls? A lot of people talk about them. Are they that good? Are they bad? Are they average? What's with the diaphragm calls?
Well, Rick's the diaphragm expert, but one thing I'll tell you about diaphragm calls is with your mouth, you can conform your mouth in different, arrangements to get different sounds out of that call and make it sound different. So you're more versatile with a diaphragm call, and there's less movement. For one, because with a friction call, you're going to be sitting here in the woods and you're going to be running this call, and there's this little bit of movement right there. And them turkeys have such great eyesight that you got to watch whatever movement you're doing. And so a diaphragm call is more beneficial to the guy that's very conscious about movement.
Right. So I'll touch just briefly on diaphragm calls. Diaphragm calls there's lots of different kinds. There's single reeds, double reeds, triple reeds, quadruple reeds, 5 reeds. I mean, it goes on and on. And there's different thicknesses of latexes, and then there's different stretches, back tension, side stretch, and everybody's mouth is different. And really the shape of their mouth will determine what kind of sound they're able to give. Not everybody's a great diaphragm caller, but I'll also tell you this: you don't have to sound like these professional callers when you're in the turkey woods, because I've heard some real turkeys that sounded like the worst callers in the world. However, good callers are not afraid to call. In fact, I call a lot, and the confidence in calling will make you call more. And I believe that calling more makes me a more successful turkey hunter. But those that are looking to maybe just start off with a diaphragm call, I recommend just a plain 2-reed call. It's the easiest one to learn on. It doesn't take as much air as some of the others. And you don't have to sound like this great turkey right out of the gate. You really just need to know and learn how to use the call. And then you can break into some of the other cuts and different reads and so on and so forth. There's so many instructional things out there, YouTube and all these different things now, that you can easily learn how to use a diaphragm call.
That's me. I've never turkey hunted. I've always wanted to, but several years ago, I played around with different turkey calls, and one of these days we're going to have to get together, Rick, just so you can help teach me, and you too, Edwin. We can teach me how to hunt turkey. I'd love for that to happen, and that's the reason I'm asking some of these questions. Is I'm a beginning turkey hunter, and that's what the public, a lot of them never hunted before. They want to know what's the first step in getting a turkey call. What's the first thing I need to know?
The first thing you want to know is I think what do you want to what weapon do you want to shoot them with? Whether it's a shotgun, a bow, or a crossbow, whatever your state allows legally. You need to look into your state laws first and find out what you can and cannot do as far as hunting turkeys. That's the first step, is to be safe out there, know what your target is, know where you're shooting, but look into that first. And then after that, there, man, it's deep because you got shotguns with so many different chokes and so many different size shot patterns. You got 2 3/4, 6s, 4s, 5s, and you got 3-inch, you got 3.5-inch, and your chokes come in full, extra full, double extra full. There's a lot of variables for someone getting started in turkey hunting.
Now,
But the number one thing I can tell you is get out there and listen to the birds. Find out where they're sleeping at night, and then
okay.
get 100 yards away in the morning and listen to them wake up. Listen to how loud they are in the mornings. If you can, get out there in the evenings and listen to them come back and fly up, and it'll give you an idea.
I heard Rick earlier. I'm sorry, but I heard Rick earlier talking about some videos. Both of you put videos. Is there some good videos? You know, if you've got websites that people can go to and find these videos for sale?
I'm glad you
Yeah.
asked that. I'm still old fashioned, and we still produce a DVD, and I've got 3 seasons, Through the Eyes of a Hunter, turkey hunting, and seasons 1, 2, and 3. We just finished 3. In fact, Edwin did the editing on this, he and I together, but it is a phenomenal video when it comes to turkey hunting. So if you're interested in that, and I also have my own line of diaphragm calls. So anybody that's interested in diaphragm calls, we can help you out there too as well.
Okay, he's got websites to go to find these items?
Yeah, I mean, they can get me through the Outdoorsman website on the ProStaff page, or they can
Okay.
email Mr. Wingbone's calls, and he'll direct that to where it needs to go.
Yeah, I have a website, www.mrwingbonescalls.com, all lowercase letters, or you can find me on Facebook, Edwin Shirts or Mr. Wingbones Calls.
Awesome.
If you encounter any experiences on my website that gives you difficulty, just shoot me a private message, and I can take care of you that way and send you an invoice, through an email situation. We don't have to use the website if it's giving you fits for some reason.
Okay. Can we? Okay. Paul's sitting back here. We need to get on down through here. Rick.
Yeah, we're just going to move on to
What about
Rick, I
your-
guess, at this
your
point.
muzzleload hunt that you just went on.
Well, as we talked last week, I was just going into my last deer hunt of the season, and it was a late season muzzleloader hunt here in my home state of Iowa. And, I was a little concerned. We had the snow cover, so that was good. And we started off with some cooler weather, and that was good, but it started to warm up a little bit. And when I say warm up, maybe by your standards, it wasn't that warm, but it was in the mid-20s. And, what I'd like to see this time of year is snow cover and about 5 below. And then the deer really moved. But they were moving pretty good. They were moving kind of last light. But long story short, just 2 nights ago, after 4 nights of sitting on a food source, and I hunt food sources and primarily just in the evening, I was able to be successful and shot a really nice deer on video, which I think Paul maybe has a photo of it. But I'll be honest with you, I was kind of glad my deer season's over because I'm looking forward to turkey season. But one of the things that we did talk about last week, and I want to touch a little bit on it again today, because people are always asking me about my equipment. And I was shooting a Thompson Center, and as I mentioned last week, Blackhorn powder with a 250 grain bullet. But one of the scope that I use is a Bresser Condor 1.5 by 6 by 42. And, I talk to people all the time, and they want to put 4 by 12s and 3 by 9s, and you really don't need to, because a muzzleloader, for the most part, you're shooting 200 yards and in, and you don't need that high magnification. So 1.5 by 6 is the scope I use, and I believe a little later in the show here, it might be the special this week, I think.
We're going to kind of agree with you, but we'll talk about that here in just a few minutes. They just showed that picture of the buck you got. Rick, I got to admit that is one very impressive monster buck you've got right there. And
Well, I appreciate that. I had a really good season this year, and Iowa was really good to me. I was able to take some deer with my bow this year, and then finish it up with that great deer. And I got a I got to go to work for a little while just to pay my taxidermy bill this year. So, but, no, listen, anytime you can get out is great. And then taking a deer like that is just icing on the cake for me. So I had a great time and now I can sit back. We're going to do a little bit of predator hunting coming up here before turkey season. And, just keeps on rolling.
I like that. Keep going. And, I didn't get to go hunt last weekend, but I did get to teach some brand new shooters how to shoot shotguns last weekend. A couple and their 3 kids, and enjoyed every minute of it while I was doing it.
That's great. I mean, that's what it's all about, bringing them youngsters up and introducing them to the sport, and hopefully they have as much fun as we do.
Oh yeah. The whole family had fun, and that's one of the things that I love to do. You do too, I know. So we all need to remember, keep everybody in mind and introduce new people to the sport.
Yeah, that's exactly right. I don't know how much more time we've got, but if we've got a minute, I had someone ask me just the other day, just kind of end up my deer season. And people are kind of always asking how do you cook your deer and what do you do with them? And well, first of all, I shoot enough deer that I donate several of them to the needy because I just can only eat so many deer in a year. So I try to donate them to a real good cause. But here's an easy to remember recipe if you want to try it. It's fantastic. But take a backstrap, and whether it's just a part of it or a whole backstrap, and cut it right down the middle and make a pocket. Don't go through the back side of it. Make a pocket and fill that with blue cheese and minced garlic, and then tie it or toothpick it together and throw it on the grill and cook it to however you like it. I'm a medium rare type guy.
Yeah.
And I'm telling you what, it's simple, maybe a little olive oil on it, but it is simple and it is absolutely fabulous. Anybody that's ever tried this has gotten back to me and said, this is so good. Well, here's a recipe for you to try.
That is short, sweet, and simple. Okay, you kind of mentioned about it earlier. You want to talk about our special tonight. It is the scope you were talking about and that you use. So you want to go ahead and bring it up and talk about it tonight?
Yep, absolutely. Now listen, this is a scope that I highly recommend for whether you're a shotgun hunter or a muzzleloader hunter. And as you can see, Lonnie's got it in his hands there. It's a Bresser Condor 1.5 by 6 by 42. Now it normally sells for $309.99, $309.99. But this week up through Sunday, I believe at midnight.
Sunday.
I'm sorry?
Midnight Sunday.
Okay. We are going to go half price on this scope. So it'll be sold for $155. That's the special. And all you need to do when you go to the Bresser USA or Alpen website is when you go to order it, hit the promo code on the hunt with no spaces, lowercase, and it will automatically ring up at that half price. So again, normally $309.99, this week $155. And I'm telling you, it's a great scope, so take advantage of it.
Yeah, and like Rick said, when you go to checkout, go to On the Hunt. That's all lowercase letters.
Yeah, it's a code on the hunt.
The code On the Hunt, ONTHEHUNT. No spaces, just On the Hunt. 50% off this wonderful product right here.
Now, Rick, this Paul, the director, producer, is doing 17,000 things at once. I got a question for you.
Yeah.
When you're using this, you can put this on basically anything, can't you?
Well, you can. You certainly can. But I recommend it for that 200 yards and in, kind of. I don't know that I would put it on a long distance rifle or something that you're shooting whitetail or mule deer out at 400 and 500 yards. But 200 yards and in, muzzleloader, shotgun, ideal for that setup.
Very nice. So, like somebody like myself, though, who doesn't do a lot of hunting, you can put this on a shotgun, a rifle, black powder. It doesn't really matter, does it?
No, not at all. Again, kind of keep in mind, and I keep saying 200 yards and in because that's where I think your range is with the shotgun and muzzleloader. But kind of 200 yards, and anything over that, then you may want to look at a higher power. And then, of course, depending on what your eyesight is to begin with, will determine some of that as well.
Yeah, as we get a little older, we need to get some glasses and different magnifications. But I'm with you, Rick. This lower power on your under 200 yards, I want to see the animal. I don't want to look at a spot. I want to see the animal. This lower power will do that for you.
Well, the lower power also, gathers light, so
correct.
I can see a little bit longer and clearer throughout the evening, and I can shoot right up until legal shooting time. So that's another reason I like it.
Yes.
And I like the the look of it too. I mean.
Yeah, and this scope also has reticles in it as well for them low light conditions.
I like the reticle on that. So, that particular scope is one of my favorites.
I got another question. Somebody who's never gone turkey hunting, because out where I'm at, the turkey hunting, there's not a whole lot going on. Some of the places are blocked off by the Game and Fish. What's the first thing of somebody like myself who's been duck hunting, things like that, but is going to go out and turkey hunt? What's the first thing I need to pay attention? What's the first thing I need to do when it goes to turkey hunting for the first time?
Well, I do turkey hunting seminars all over the United States, and I'm going to talk about this. It might not be exactly what you were thinking out the way I was going, but the first thing that I have to really instill on people is safety. So know what to wear into the timber, what not to wear, know when to move. If I'm hunting public ground, I'm not in there walking and calling, because that could be dangerous. But the bottom line is I would recommend people, you're going to go in, you're going to wear camouflage from head to toe. You're going to call. The number one thing I would tell people, the beginner turkey hunter, is patience. Have patience. Patience will make you a more successful turkey hunter than anything else you do. And especially those that really don't know what they're doing. You've got the safety, you've got the guns, you pattern your guns, you know how they shoot. There's so many things I could talk about, but patience is probably one of the bigger things to know.
Okay, Rick, I appreciate it. Good talking to you, seeing you again tonight. Benjamin. I'm going to call you Benjamin tonight.
I'll call him Benjamin from now
Glad
on.
to meet you, and I'm glad you're on the air. Mr. Wingbone himself, Benjamin Shirts.
Benjamin Shirts.
Edwin Shirts.
Mr. Edwin Shirts.
We'll get going again. We'll meet in person someday, hopefully.
I hope we do. I hope we do.
All right, close it down for us. Thank you.
Okay, remember, on the hunt, go to it, get your good scope, and next week we have some good guests for you again. On the hunt.
Hey, Rick.
Rick.
Next week's guest, you're right, I forgot to mention that. Mike DiGiovanni from New Jersey is going to be on the show next week. He's one of our pro staff members, but he's going to talk a little bit about late season deer and goose hunting out east.
Awesome. That ought to be an awesome show. I look forward to seeing everyone, and remember, send your comments in. Have a good evening, everyone.
Good optics are a must for a hunter, particularly binoculars, not only during hunting season, but times like this when it's time to start scouting. But there's one thing you need to do when you get your binoculars that a lot of people don't realize. You need to set them up for yourself. Everybody's eyes are a little bit different. And here's how I do it. It's simple and easy. Just take the binoculars and just kind of grab good focus on an object. And I go and put my hand over the left lens. The diopter ring, which is on the right side, I will go ahead and adjust that until that right eye is in focus. Once it is, I take the hand off the other side, both eyes in focus, and you're ready to go. It's simple and easy, and it's a must that you do this before you go out and use them.
Good optics are a must for a hunter. The new Alpen Tetons. They're lighter, they're better in low light, excellent excellent glass. You'll be hard pressed to find that glass for under $1,000. Everything that you would want in a pair of optics. I know what I'm looking for, and once I know what I'm looking for and find what it is, that's what I'm interested in buying. The bottom line is they're affordable, they're lighter, and they're great in low light. The new Alpen Tetons. Another deer coming out.